Congratulations. You've made it to the end of the water cycle. The last thing you have to do is pick a project and show what you know. Here's the overview. Your project will be independent, which means you need to show what you've learned over the past few days and weeks. You may choose any format for your project, but you may not choose a diagram. You created a diagram with your team when you did your water cycle poster. In your project, you must include all the stores of water, all the movements of water, and explain why water moves through the water cycle. The first thing you're going to want to do is choose a format. These are 4 options. You do not need to choose from one of these options, but it might be a good place to start. You might choose to write a story from the point of view of a water molecule. Describe the trip the molecule takes around the world. So imagine you're a water molecule in the ocean. How could you go through the water cycle, and what would your story look like? For my more artistic students, perhaps you want to draw a comic as a water molecule travels around the Earth. You could do a day in the life of a water molecule. Again, maybe it's a water molecule in a cloud. How does that water molecule get from a cloud back to the ocean? How does it travel through the water cycle? You could draw a comic book to show how that works. For the more adventurous folks, maybe you want to draw a map. Now, I gotta stress, this is not a diagram. I want you to think more of like a treasure map. Could you show how water molecules travel around the Earth? What would that epic journey look like? What would the steps be? For my musical or theatrical students, maybe you want to create a skit or write a song about the water cycle. You could explain how water moves and where it's stored through acting or lyrics. Next, let's talk about how you're going to be graded. It's really important to note that no matter what type of project you pick, everyone will be graded the same way. I like to start by understanding what the standard is asking. You'll notice on the left, it says MS ESS 2-4. That standard says students should develop a model to describe the cycling of water through Earth's systems driven by energy from the sun and the force of gravity. So how are you going to get that done? Well, let's look at the middle column that says proficient. Underneath, you'll see that with my project, I can include 4 to 5 stores of water. So regardless of your project, you should be including things like the ocean, atmosphere, groundwater. The next bullet point is that I can correctly state the process of water movement between 4 or more stores. So that would be naming things like evaporation is the movement between the ocean and the atmosphere. Finally, I can explain why water moves. And that might include things like sunlight, temperature, gravity for most steps. So in your project, you should be explaining why water moves. Why does water move from the ocean to the atmosphere? Or from the land into fresh water? Moving up a level to exceeding, with my project, I can include all stores of water, correctly state the process of water movement between all stores, and explain why water moves for all steps. To earn a 4, you'll have to be really thoughtful to include all of the stores of water, how water moves around, and why water moves around, really using those science notes you worked so hard on. Now, on the other end of the grading rubric, you'll notice approaching and developing. Those scores are normally earned if you forget to include a store or a movement or an explanation as to why water moves. So make sure as you're working on your project that you're being thoughtful about including stores of water, movements of water, and the reasons why water moves. Before you begin, I really need to stress, you're going to want to brainstorm how you're going to accomplish this project. In fact, you should make a brainstorm page in your notebook. Take the time to really plan out your project. If you're writing a story, where's the water going to start? Where will it go next? How will the story end? If you're doing a comic, you should be thinking about who are your characters. How are they going to interact? If you're doing a skit or a song, same thing. What are the characters? Or what's the story you're telling? And make sure that you have a clear idea for how you're going to earn 4s on this project. 3s are good, but they're not good enough. Make sure you're going for 4s.